Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Qualified Podcast. With me today, I have Kirsten Boudreaux, and she's going to be talking about her cleaning service, Clean Slate Janitorial. Kirsten, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So let's jump into your background. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? All that.
Yeah, so I'm originally from the DC area. I grew up in Alexandria, Virginia. And I actually live in New Orleans now. I just moved back to New Orleans from Lafayette, like the Acadiana area. And yeah, growing up, I was more of like, Alexandria, DC are more of like a big city type of energy, a lot going on. And so it's a lot, it's a lot more different here. I moved here about 8-9 years ago. So.
Okay. So when you were younger, did you know what you wanted to do, whether it was business or something else?
Yeah. So when I was younger, I always wanted to be in the mortuary field. And my first career was in the funeral home. So I worked in funeral homes for a while. This is a lot different than the cleaning business. But yeah, I worked as a funeral director and embalmer for some time. I actually did everything. I did cremation as well. And so that was something that I was always like oddly interested by. And I felt that I had a talent for it. And it just a completely different time in my life. But yeah, that's what I went into right out of high school.
What drew you into that field? It's just not something that everyone kind of grows up and is like, hey, I want to do, funeral services.
Yeah, no, I have no idea. I was always a little bit of a weird kid, but I think that because it was so diverse, like as in there was a diverse amount of skills that you needed to have to be successful at it, and that your day was never like, I never wanted to have like a boring office job. I wanted to do something that like I could always enjoy. There would always be something different to do. And like in the funeral industry, some of your days were like picking people up in the middle of the night, or meeting with families, or doing insurance paperwork, or doing cremation or embalming, or doing makeup, ordering certain merchandise. So it was always like there was something different going on. So I felt like once I actually got into it, I was like, wow, I don't think I'd be bored doing this. I was always very creative as well. And I felt like, doing like the creative side of it, like restorative work and makeup, I just really enjoyed that.
I'm sure there was never a day that was dull or, the same as a previous day. Definitely something that personally I would not enjoy or see myself going into, but everyone has their own path and leads them to that, right? And
Yeah.
You decided to make a shift towards running your own business and choosing the cleaning industry. Did anybody in your family help guide you in any way? Anybody else in your family a business owner?
No, so my parents were government consultants, but other than that, no, I mean, not really. That's not really the same as running and owning and operating a business or a company. And I've always I would say I'm always kind of like dance to the beat of my own drum. So I felt like entrepreneurship really it was really attractive to me, which I was like, okay, I can be in charge. I can do this and that. And then working in the funeral industry, I've seen how systems go like really bad, or if you don't have correct SOPs in place, like your life becomes chaos. Like things don't get ordered, documents don't get filed, like delays happen. Even people don't get picked up, like anything can happen. So I felt like, if I was in control and I had a business, it would be something that I could excel at.
So when you first decided to start Clean Slate, when was this?
Yeah, so this was actually August of 2023.
Okay.
Started.
So just hit the 2-year mark. What inspired you, to start that? You said you were very intrigued with entrepreneurship and owning a business, but why the cleaning service?
Yeah, so I actually was I had no choice, I think, at the time. So what had happened is my husband also, well, so we had our daughter and she was about like a month old, 6 weeks old or so. And he was working in the funeral industry as well. We wanted to eventually own a funeral home, and we were trying to become sort of like partners with like a local family firm. And what had happened is they were like, hey man, like we just don't have money to pay you. Like it's really tough. We're barely making our overhead expenses. Like literally his boss was crying, had to let him go. And at that point we're like, okay, I think we're probably see the writing on the wall. Like we can't stay in this business. And so at that point, like we were fine. He was working like just like random retail jobs, and we had very low expenses and a lot of savings. So he was like working a retail job, working in a bar, just like basic jobs to have some pocket money to keep going. And at that point, I was on TikTok, and I'm like, I've always been, like getting information from people online, especially when it comes to business. But I got really acquainted with the cleaning business owner community. And I've heard like people talking about, or a specific creator that was talking about like, oh, you can start a business. This is how much money you can make. You can make monthly recurring revenue. And so I was like, I didn't even need any more convincing at that point. I told my husband, like, we're doing this, like, we're going to jump in right now. This sounds like a great idea. Like, what could go wrong? I was a little naive at that point, but I was like, what could go wrong? And at that point, I decided to file the LLC, like come up with a business plan and do all of that on my own. He was very begrudging about it. He was like, it's not going to do well. Like, you didn't do enough due diligence in your research. And like, granted, he was correct with that. Like it was blind ignorance. I was like, okay, I'm very convinced that this is like, what could go wrong? But he was like, no, it's not going to go well. Like, this is a bad idea. And I was determined at that point to prove him wrong because of spite. So I was like, I need to just keep going. This is going to succeed. And it did. So, yeah.
I mean, that's a good motivator, showing somebody that you could do it. I think it's one of the best motivators you could possibly have. Friendly, with it being a spouse and all that. Do you remember how much you guys invested to start the business?
Yeah. So it was like sub $500. So it was like I incorporated the business, got the LLC. I did all that on my own, got the insurance. And then I designed my website. So that was free, just like had to pay for the domain name. And then I think when we started, we were cleaning ourselves. So it was just like some basic supplies, cleaning kit. Pretty much that was it. We didn't pay any money in advertising, and we didn't even have any staff when we started. We were just learning. So it was like very maybe I would say maybe $200 if I had to be like super correct about it.
Wow. So that's basically nothing. Okay. Yeah, what challenges? I mean, everybody's got challenges. Starting a business is incredibly challenging itself. What have been some of those challenges that you faced since starting?
Yeah, so I think my biggest challenge that we've overcome this past summer was it's hiring, but it's not exactly what people think. It's if you hire the wrong admin staff, your money will lose a lot of business. Like your business will lose a lot of money. So what we had is hired some administrative assistants, and we found that like through monitoring like how we get our bookings, like phone, online, etc., we found that like the highest close rate comes from actual phone conversations where somebody's inquiring about a clean and they want to just to know then and there how much it costs, and you have to overcome some sort of objections. Well, we found that like that wasn't happening with our admin staff, and we were losing either like leads weren't getting followed up with, they weren't able to overcome their clients' objections when it comes to like, oh, why you should and should not, go ahead and book with us. And then just like a lot of other administrative errors were happening. And so I found that like I should have stayed smaller, got my hands a little bit more dirty for longer in the business. I think we were pretty overwhelmed because of the volume of calls that we get at this point. But we had lost a lot of money when it comes to like advertisement. We get a lot of like leads from local service ads. And if those aren't like, if we're not getting a return on investment by closing those clients, then we're just losing money. So that's been like one of the most difficult lessons so far since running our company, I would say. And it's something that like a lot of people don't talk about it. They're just like, invest your money in ads. Don't worry about it. Like, but you need to make sure that you're still closing to like recoup the costs. So yeah, that was definitely a difficult lesson.
So SOPs, knowing what your if, like you said, you weren't in it long enough to get those operating procedures down, and you might have not had them written out for your admin staff. And that's why things possibly went a little haywire there. Do you still have admin staff, or did you roll it back and now are you in it fully?
Yeah, so I think part of it's SOPs, but I think another thing that people don't mention is it's about the person who's answering the phone. It's about their skill level, because I can train and train and train, but if you hire the wrong person for your business, your business is going to suffer. So what we did is we rolled it back a little bit. We have a part-time admin, and it's just mainly my husband and I answering the phones right now. So we're able to recoup a little bit of that lost funds and close more and more.
So, with competition now in your area, how are you standing out from the crowd? Mostly everybody, or a good amount now, have, back end support with softwares, AI automations are coming up. How are you guys breaking the noise in your area?
Yeah. So it's really interesting when we look at competition, because the first thing is like when you're in cleaning, to me, there's no competition. The market size is so big that your actual market, like it's hard to saturate. And I've taken some time to kind of befriend many other cleaning business owners through a local group in both New Orleans and Acadiana. And I find that collectively, our biggest issue is franchises, but we have an unfair advantage. Whereas we're very personal, we're very personable, we're willing to pick up the phone and actually speak with our prospect or client on the phone. And people like that a lot more than just like a franchise coming in blindly, not really listening to what the client needs or what they're requesting. So I find that like our attention to detail as well as our like personal touch really works well in our market, especially with it being a lot of older women that want that customer service experience. I think like our booking software is great, and it's super like transparent, and we get compliments on it all the time. But I think like actually, in addition to that, having it very transparent, like actually being able to answer the phone and help your customers out, like face to face, essentially, is super like valuable in this industry.
Not the big box brand that outsources literally everything and doesn't care to call back or work with people, right? It's just churn and burn and see how many people can sign up, and just their dollar amounts. The customers are dollar amounts, and that's nothing more in their eyes, right? Versus a mom and pop traditional family owned business. So you said you and your husband are in this together. How are you prioritizing and managing your time? And, two part to that. So there's that, and then work-life balance. How are you guys, balancing that on top of it all?
I feel like we're not. And I think that that's okay, because it's just a season. So I feel like, when you're growing a business, you have a season where you're very involved and you have to kind of like grind every day, get up and hustle. And I think it's fine. As much as it's very difficult, having like a community where I can talk to other people in the industry is super helpful. But also just realizing like that this isn't forever helps. Like I am not going to be forever, waking up and handling, all of these tasks and never getting a weekend. Like, I'm working on delegating tasks out and learning and eventually I believe things are going to get better. So I think it's just like realizing that that's just a season, especially when you're growing a business that's somewhat new. I think that's to be expected, and it's okay.
Good outlook, definitely. Because when you're building it up, you only yourself know where your point of stepping back is. Every business owner is different. Some of them go full force in the first year, first 6 months, and then they're like, okay, I got to a point where this is how I want to run it, and I'll step back. Everybody's different. And that's great that you understand that it's not forever, right? You and your husband are doing it for now, and it'll get much better. So leadership style, what's yours like with your office staff or your workers?
Yeah. So I would say that I'm kind of strict. I have high expectations, but at the same time, I prioritize wanting to, provide my office staff and cleaners with SOPs to be as helpful as possible. But I think with me, like, you never have to guess like what's on my mind. I'm always going to be very direct. Um, and hey, I just realized that so and so wasn't happy about this clean. They weren't happy about the baseboards. I bring it up then and there because I don't like problems like festering. So I find that, like, they as much as they don't like, people don't like confrontation, I think that they respect the fact that I'm going to be very forthright, and I'm going to mention what's going on. And it's no hard feelings. If something's not going on, we address it and we try to figure out a plan. And from there, like, I do what I can to provide them with SOPs. But yeah, you can't, with this business, like, you can't, it's so hard because you can't let problems go on for too long. Like, you have to overcome them or else they become bigger problems. So I've learned that just like being very direct, taking care of a problem as it comes up is like super helpful. And then you can focus on everything else you need to do.
Especially on the customer side. If there's an issue with the customer and you let it go a little bit too long, this is a massive referral based business. So you got one upset customer telling all their friends and family, then they know, and it just kind of snowballs from there. So jumping on it as fast as possible is definitely the way to go. With you having that strict leadership style, how hard or is it easier to create and keep a positive company culture within everybody, customers and workers alike?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is because at the end of the day, like, and this might just be my age, like, I'm very focused on just getting the work done, like, no hard feelings. If something comes up, we just need to figure out how we're going to accomplish things. And so I know, like, in other work environments, like, issues can turn into like massive, like, organizational problems. And I think like there's a level of respect that comes with it. Now, I don't think like our company's for everyone. And I understand that, but I think our company is great, especially because, we usually we don't micromanage. It's just, it's not personal, it's business. If something comes up, we take care of it. But other than that, like, I don't care if, somebody showed up 2 minutes late, like that's understandable. So we don't micromanage. I don't have the energy to micromanage. When you're growing a company and you're getting bigger and bigger, you don't want to you don't want to throw the baby out the bathwater. So
Yeah.
I find it like there is a level of respect that people have. Like, okay, like, I know our cleaners know what we expect of them. There's never a surprise. And I think that they like that. Like, they always know where they stand. And, if they have any issues, we're always willing to jump in and either advocate for them if it's with a client or try to help where we can. So I think that's definitely comes with a level of respect.
Setbacks and failures happen in every business. What's your approach to that? How do you, like you said, you don't let things fester. So is that something you just jump on right away, or do you sit with it for a little bit and try and, work through the motions before tackling it? Or how's your approach on that?
Yeah, so you have to be extremely decisive in business. Like, if you can't make a decision, you're not going to grow, I would say. In terms of failure, I've never looked at failure as a failure, but I've looked at failure as a tool to guide you in the right direction. So, if something's not working out, it's helping us figure out what could work out. Like, it's almost like, okay, this didn't work out. Well, let's brainstorm what could. Let's figure out, we're going to be redirected by failure. That's what I think about, when anything negative happens. But I would say like setbacks are pretty normal. One of the biggest things that we've had to figure out is how to manage cash flow. And I think that that's absolutely crucial in every business. Like, cash is king. If you don't have cash flow, you're not going to be in business very long. Refining exactly what makes you different from the competition. And I think that, like, at the end of the day, people don't realize that the cleaning industry is not the cleaning industry. It's a people industry. Like, at the end of the day, you're managing people, and you need to figure out how to handle what happens when managing people goes wrong, because it's going to happen consistently. So that's something that I've learned, I would say, through running Clean Slate, is that I've expected to expect the unexpected with people.
Managing those expectations of everybody, the cleaners, the customers, and everybody else in between, with the issues and the setbacks and all that. What's your motivation? What's your drive to keep going every day?
Spite. No, I'm kidding. I would say I'm very passionate about it. I didn't think that, like, I've never been in business. Like, in the past, I wanted to own a funeral home, but it's a couple of things. I would say I'm becoming more passionate about the business aspect of running a service-based business, especially when it comes to like marketing and running ads and figuring out like how to grow. Like, that's super interesting to me. I've become really interested in marketing, life cycle marketing, email marketing, all of that. But I would say that, like, and my husband and I talk about this all the time, where like eventually your business isn't you anymore. It's like this, it's outside of you. It's this like monster, right? And it has all these parts and it has all these people. And so to me, like, if we don't succeed, all of the cleaners and admin staff under us, like, basically we have a duty to them to succeed. Like, they're not going to have a job if we don't continue to grow and scale and keep our current clients and keep our current clients happy. So I think, like, less of me, like, I could do without, that's fine. Like, it is what it is. But when I have to put food on the table for other people, it just becomes more like a transcendental thing. Like, I have like this, I can't fail because these people need jobs. These people need to feed their kids. Like, so it's pressure, but at the same time, it's like, okay, like, I know what this business does for people. I know that this business is beyond me at this point. So
they say pressure makes diamonds. So bring on the pressure and your business will turn into this diamond that everybody wants, right?
For sure.
Hard changes, transitions, anything that you've dealt with like that in the last 2 years? Would you say it's been the admin staff that you had to cut back?
Yeah, no, it's been like cutting back on the admin staff that's been super difficult, I would say. And it's temporary. But I would say, like, in the beginning, when you don't really know how to manage things and you're coming up with SOPs, every single time you need to make like a huge administrative change that affects our cleaners, our service providers, that can be extremely difficult. I would say also, like, when we started, we used to do walkthroughs for like every single client because we were afraid of getting lied to. And I think a lot of cleaning business owners like experience that, like, oh, they're going to lie about how big their house is or, the date of their house. And so we started that like from a level of distrust, but it would really like, it would cost us a lot of gas money. It would cost us our time, our opportunity costs that we couldn't be spending on doing other things. And so we stepped away from doing that for residential. And that was definitely difficult because there were still times where clients were dishonest, but we figured like, hey, if we got to a job site and it was way worse than we anticipated, well, we still have to charge the client. And if the client wants the service, they're going to have to pay X amount of dollars extra. So I think that was like growing pains where it was like, okay. And now we run our business pretty much remotely. So it definitely comes with the territory. Is like, okay, if you're going to take on more and more clients, you can't be at everyone's house all the time. Now, commercial walkthroughs were different, but yeah.
And with the hiring that you have, did you go employee route or contractor route?
Yeah, so we went contractor route.
And
We've never had any employees.
how many do you have?
I have 8 right now.
Where do you focus your hiring? Is it referrals from other contractors, Indeed, Facebook?
Yeah, so actually a mix of all of those. So I have an ad that we run on Indeed. And so I'm always going through and looking at jobs on Indeed to see, who applied. I do also like advertise in Facebook groups. I've advertised on my own personal Facebook page now since I'm kind of involved in several networking groups and people know like, I post about admin work, I post about cleaning work. And then I also do take referrals from some current cleaners, which can be difficult because I'll tell you this, I'll just be dead honest. If you hire a referral from a cleaner and the first cleaner the cleaner that gave you the referral is like a solid cleaner, shows up to work on time, always does a good job, is trainable, is teachable, humble, good work ethic. But then the second person has none of those qualities. It's a very awkward conversation when you have to let go the person that you hired from that referral, which has happened to us on numerous occasions because often it's a friend or a family member. So I'm more cautious of those nowadays because of what I've experienced. And I think it just goes back to like professionalism, being very transparent of what your expectations are. But yeah, and then what I do is I also have like a little shortlisted it's like a template that I have on Google with questions. And so every single time I find somebody qualified, I send them that. And it basically says like the basic questions that would be a waste of time to get on the phone with somebody. Like, do you have a valid driver's license? Could you pass a criminal background check? What's your availability? Are you aware that's a contracting position? And what I do is I just call from people who have matched my qualifications on that list. So I've sort of like condensed them and created more of like a lead funnel. And I just call them from one place. It's made my life a lot easier because, I don't have to be going over like, oh, somebody called me here. I just send them the link and if they follow it out and if they fill it out and they match our qualifications, then we set up a phone interview to start.
So yeah, take me through what your hiring process looks like from start to finish then.
Yeah. So start is like they find us online or they give us a call and they're looking for a job. We send them first of all, they have to send over their resume via email. We look for more and more cleaners with cleaning experience now. It's harder to turn somebody who hasn't been a cleaner into a cleaner. So we look for somebody who's either been, worked for a cleaning service before, cleaned houses professionally, cleaned office buildings professionally, or they've been like hotel housekeeping staff. That's a good one. And what we do is once they send their resumes to us, we send them a follow-up document going over qualifications. So for us, you have to pass a background check and show proof of that, or we run one. If you haven't taken one recently, we run one. We get a couple of references, personal and professional references. Have to have a valid driver's license. Have to have enough availability and willingness to take on recurring clientele. And then what we do from that is we have an initial interview, like a phone interview. And then we go and qualify like their references and chat with their references to see and qualify to see like if their resume is accurate. And then we do a follow-up interview and then onboard them if they're willing to take on the position.
So how, like, let's say one hits this morning
Right.
and they stay on top of giving you all the information, how quickly would they turn into a cleaner?
Yeah, if we're able to verify all their references, we could turn them into a cleaner by the end of the week, as well as like their background check. That's super important because that's super important to our clients.
Absolutely. I mean, got to feel safe letting them go into somebody's home, and the homeowner needs to feel safe, right?
Right.
You mentioned you had a little like a lead funnel for them. Is that the one in the booking koala hiring section?
No, so I actually want to switch to that, but we my ad one of my admin girls who's with us right now, she actually created it through Google Forms. So
Okay.
I handed her questions. I was like, hey, and she's really good at trying to solve certain administrative problems. I said, hey, like I have these questions and I need these people to answer these questions in a way that's super automated. Can you set something up? And that's what she set up. I just sent them over to her via email, and then by the end of the day, I had this form set up and I have it pretty much like sends it all to an Excel spreadsheet so we can look at it and see, the yeses, the nos, and then the responses that we've gotten from each candidate.
Okay. What about red flag? What's an automatic red flag on application for you?
Okay, this is not what a lot of people would think, but it's the people that have constant excuses and I would say a victim mentality. I have found that and that sounds really harsh, but when I see obviously like any employer, depending on if the person was a freelancer, this isn't going to apply. But if I see like a lot of jobs, like that were 2 months long, I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that one. Um, but I would say that if I get on a call with somebody, this is not necessarily on the application, but if I get on a call with somebody and they're saying like talking poorly about their current employer or um, saying that giving excuses as why they couldn't do work in the past, complaining a lot, I usually don't call them back. Or even like I've gotten people get a little bit hostile on the phone as well. It's very common. So I
Really?
would just say yes. Like if I'm not able to view their application, none of us in the office are able to view their application within a couple of days, we've gotten people who call us up and they say the craziest things. I'm like, sometimes you have to be patient. Like any office, any company, they don't have the time all like constantly to be reviewing resumes. It's just not realistic. So if I get somebody that's like, hey, you haven't reviewed my resume, I'm upset, da da da, like I'm like, okay, I think I have pause. As much as we do try to like stay on top of it, it just sometimes when running a business like this, sometimes that's the last thing on your list. So I would say those are all red flags.
Flip side of that, what's the ideal candidate look like?
Yeah, so the ideal candidate would be somebody I would say who has cleaning experience, but they're looking to we pay like double the competition, so they're looking to make more money and they're willing to work pretty much like maybe they want to build up their schedule a little bit more in terms of like making more hours. We're able to do that. So I would say it's somebody with a good work ethic, somebody who's been able to stay at a job for a long period of time, and somebody who's like, hey, I'm willing to put in the work. I want to make more money for my family. I want to provide for my family. I really respect that. So, yeah.
And are you always hiring? Like, do you always have something besides the referrals, obviously? What about Facebook or Indeed? Do you always have a job app running, or is it a pause and go as you need?
Yeah. So pretty much the last 6 months or so, we've had a constant need. Um, so we have had to constantly hire. I would say two things with that. And one of these people don't really mention this when it comes to the cleaning industry. There's a high turnover rate. The more you grow, the more your need becomes for your labor supply. And I would say that you can expect churn from your employees or your contractors. It just happens. Even the really solid ones, sometimes they find better job positions. Sometimes they move outside the state. It just happens. So we have a constant need. The other thing with growth is that because of growth, because you're going to acquire more customers, and your schedule becomes more and more packed. Like you can only work your current cleaners so much. Like you need to, that the only way that you can scale is by bringing in more labor supply. So I would say that's the second portion of that.
The other big side of the service industry, so hiring is one, and the flip side is marketing. So what are you currently doing for your marketing?
Yeah, this is my favorite topic actually. So I will start with the secret sauce for us. And this is different for every market. But I would say that our favorite way and our most highest return method for marketing is using Google local service ads. I mean, it's been amazing for us. We've acquired so many customers from it. It just keeps getting better and better. In our market, our lead cost is pretty low. Our lead cost is only $30 to $50 a lead. I know in other markets that's different, but that's been our favorite. We've tried PPC before. I personally haven't been the biggest fan of it, but I know some people that can do some magic on that, especially when you have it hooked up to a landing page and you're able to constantly look at like the back end and see where your customers are in the demographics. That can be amazing. Just not for us. Meta ads, big fan of meta ads. I know that some people don't like them because they're top of funnel, but meta ads have helped us acquire a lot of customers. I kind of got really involved in using them at the beginning of this year. So what I like to do is when we get our leads, I also like to follow up with our leads once we provide them with a quote. But I like to set up a nurture sequence. So I use Go High Level as well for that. So basically where, it's if we don't hear from them, we send them an email, send them a text. We have automations, and that helps a lot. And those are our kind of like our paid strategies. Another thing that I really like is Facebook groups for free. Facebook groups, next door, moms groups, neighborhood groups. I mean, that's how we started. We didn't spend $1 in advertising for the first year. It was just talking about our business on Facebook, pretty much like running specials, running Facebook exclusive, specials like a free oven clean, free baseboard, something like that. But we've acquired a lot of customers that were like actively looking in Facebook groups for a cleaning service. So that's been super helpful for us. Nextdoor is another one. We have a free Yelp account, which we've gotten some customers from. But that just depends on your market. And then, yeah, so I mentioned like the re-engagement campaign that we've done recently, like with Go High Level. I found that like a couple of months ago, I was trying to brainstorm like how we could acquire customers with the customers that have reached out to us in the past but haven't booked. So I set up a whole automation doing that with email, SMS, and even calling them. And we've been able to actually get some of those clients to book. So that's been super fascinating. We also did like flyers in the past, but it wasn't like the typical flyers like graphics on it or anything. It was just a letter basically. We've done that for years now, where basically what we do is we introduce ourselves, or maybe we say like we have clients in the area. We go to neighborhoods where we do have clients, depends. And then what we do is we mention like who we are as a service, what makes us different, like our value proposition, licensed, bonded, insured, family owned, all of those things, quality conscious. And we put a little offer in there. We've gotten a lot of customers from that, especially older folks. But we make it look like a letter and put it in an envelope and leave it on their doorstep. So my husband loves walking around and passing those out. And the older folks are like, wow, this is interesting. I've done handwritten letters too, where I've introduced our business and put like a business card in there and left them in neighborhoods where we already have clients. Basically said, we would love to take care of your home. We have clients in the areas, give us a call, and they like that as well.
What is the most successful campaign that you've ran?
It's hard to say. I would say local service ads is super successful. Just because it's bottom of funnel. Um, it really depends. Like sometimes we get a lot of meta clicks, a lot of leads coming in. But I would say local service ads is super successful. And I would say that the door knocking, not the door knocking, but like the leaving the flyers is successful as well. Because it's very personal. People like that.
Data, huge, especially in marketing. What are you leveraging out of your data? How into your decision making? What are you extracting and looking at and being like, okay, I need to always check this to make sure we're moving forward?
Okay, so this is like my favorite topic. Second to marketing is who's buying, and I have data to back this up. It's super fascinating. So when I started like this company and I started getting involved in the cleaning industry, my assumptions were that we were gonna have the postpartum moms or the people who struggle with depression, the younger folks that are busy professionals. I thought that was going to be our customer segment, right? And I think part of me was like, wow, when I had my daughter and stuff, I was like, wow, I really want a cleaning service to come help me out. I was being a little narcissistic with my thought when I started the business, thinking that everybody was going to be like me in the same position, but through running my meta ads, because the back end is so robust, I have found that, and this becomes validated like every day too, which is crazy. But I have found that the people who are buying our services are a majority of women, 55 plus. Then I have gone to go ahead and interview those women as of why they're purchasing cleaning services. And I'm saying like monthly, weekly, bi-weekly, recurring maid service, recurring cleaning service, essentially. Not let's just leave commercial to the side. But when I go and interview them, they mentioned that, first of all, this is the first time in their life. They might still be working, but this is the first time in their life when they have the disposable income to do so. They feel like they have it. They might have had the disposable income, but they can justify it now. They are usually the people who host family gatherings, such as, dinners, football game, tailgates, anything like that. They are hosting in my market. That's a really big thing. With the LSU games and the Saints games, it's a huge thing. They host holidays usually at their home. They usually have grandkids, and so they need their house clean because everybody's coming to their house. And then they also mention very discreetly that it's usually because they have a bad back or a bad knee. It's very difficult to properly clean their house. And so that has become true like to this day. I get clients all the time. I'm like, I know that's a woman 55 plus. I understand her struggle. I know what she's been through. So I try to target those women. Yeah.
That's surprising.
Yes.
Maybe in your market it's not, because of obviously you have the data to back it. And I've never actually heard a cleaning business owner sending questionnaires to their customers and being like, why, and getting the response.
Yeah, well, I got on the phone with them too, and I wanted to hear. And people in Louisiana, they like to chat. That's one thing. I get on the phone with them and ask them, why did you hire a service? And whenever anything goes wrong too, I like to do customer discovery, because I like to find out from the client, what do they value? Why are they purchasing this service? But another thing is, like, in my area culturally, like, usually women of that age are still expected to handle like household duties, domestic work. And so if they don't have a bad back or a bad knee, they're not going to be able to do it. Like, their husband's almost like, hey, just, take my card, buy a service, like, schedule a service to come, no big deal, da da da. That's how it's become. It's very interesting.
It is. You mentioned that you do networking groups and networking yourself. How have you found that beneficial? What's some insight into that other cleaning business owners should look into for that?
Yeah. So I have prioritized trying to meet other people in the area who have cleaning businesses, and it's like interesting. When I went into this, I thought there was going to be a lot of competition and like ugly behavior from people who are super competitive, but everybody just wants to help everyone out. Um, so it's super interesting. Like even in my area, I have friends that own our competitor, businesses, and we give each other tips. And you never know when you might need help from them or they might need help from you. So it's just like they get it. They understand the struggles that you're going through. I would say with networking, I've been involved in several women's groups. I've also been involved in a cohort for the last couple of years as well. I've learned a lot about marketing. I've learned a lot from other business people, and it just makes me like want to keep going because I know that I have resources and I have relationships that are valuable, especially like when I don't know where to turn.
Trends, industry trends that are always getting updated within the year. What's your go-to method for staying on top of that?
Yeah. So in terms of industry trends, I'm very involved in, a lot of groups that are cleaning related. So for the most part, I keep up on that. What's happening, what people are doing different. I would say like I'm prioritized keeping up with how the marketing, like how digital marketing is changing. Just because I find that it's so valuable in our customer acquisition process. So I constantly have to educate myself on, where things are going, how certain functions are, whether it be Meta ads, Facebook, Google ads, email marketing. It's just something you have to constantly be learning in business.
100%. Marketing is the one thing that you always need to stay on top of as a business owner because things change quickly within Meta or TikTok or YouTube. Sometimes they change things twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year. I know I've seen YouTube do 2 changes once on videos in the same year. And once you get traction doing one thing, they go and switch it up. Right. So it's super important to stay on top of things related to that. Partnerships. Do you have partnerships with realtors or building managers or other service businesses?
I wouldn't say formally, but like since I have a network of people who own cleaning businesses in my area, like one thing I don't like doing is post construction cleaning. I know some people love that. I don't like doing it. And so whenever I get a lead for it, I usually pass it along to a specific business owner. And when she gets leads for like one-time residential cleans, she doesn't really like to do one times. I take that on. So I would feel that like, it's not really formally that I have a partnership with anyone in particular. For our commercial clients, like we have clients that are building managers and property managers and stuff, but for the most part, it's nothing like formal other than them being clients.
Customer loyalty. How do you work on enhancing that and making sure you are generating that repeat business?
Yeah, so that's a good one. So like I mentioned, I find that it's super valuable for me to be personally invested at this time in our clients. So they know, and many of our very OG, like new, like the clients we had in the beginning, they know that they can always pick up the phone and call me. And I find that just being available helps a lot. In terms of like customer loyalty, we've done like referral programs in the past. Um, and we've also like I think that our biggest value proposition is the fact that we're so personable and we're willing to pick up the phone and have difficult conversations. But we also offer like, recurring discounts for clients to decide to book monthly, weekly, or biweekly.
And Social media. Do you focus anything on there? Is that something big for your business or not really?
Yeah, it's very big because when we started, we didn't spend a dollar on marketing and advertisement. We just bootstrapped it using Facebook groups, Nextdoor. And so we still to this day acquire customers organically through our social media presence. But it's super big. And then also one of my admin assistants, part of her job is to sit on Facebook, not just sit on it, but like monitor super groups, certain groups in the area. And when people are looking for cleaning services, she, messages them, tags our business, explains, what makes us different. And we're able to close on clients that way. So I think it's super helpful, but it also like builds credibility. Like, especially with when your client, like your customer segment is older folks, they're probably not going to, well, older folks are on Facebook a lot, but they're probably not going to want to purchase a service from a business that is like sketchy, doesn't really have any social media presence. So it builds credibility when you're constantly posting and they know that like, hey, this is not just like a fly by the night business. This is a real legitimate company. So that also helps.
Growth. How is your strategy for managing growth and looking into the future?
Yeah, so I'm constantly like right now we're in a season of wanting to aggressively scale our business, which I know some people like to take longer to do that, but I'm trying to maintain like a 10 to 15% growth rate per month right now. The bigger the better. But I'm also like targeting more commercial right now because I want those recurring contracts. So I'd say it's that, like just aggressively marketing to them, emailing them, cold calling them, whatever we need to do. But being able to acquire more recurring revenue, that's super crucial with growing.
And that's the bread and butter, right? In this business. Getting the one times to turn into recurring or finding those commercial jobs that will just keep you busy and keep the money rolling in. How do you address issues or complaints from customers?
So man, this is something that happens to every business owner all the time. And they're not as frequent as they've been. I think that like we've dialed in on our expectations with when we hire cleaners, become a little bit more strict as well. But with complaints, like I take the complaint and like deal with it as soon as it comes in. So like let's say we do a lot of cleans on the weekend, especially one times for move in, move outs, bigger projects, anything like that. And if I do get a complaint on the weekend, like I'll call, I'll figure it out, I'll do a re-clean of the client's office or their home. But it's just about like urgently handling it. So a lot of times, for the most part, like if something's not done the way they expected, we go over like what that is. We ask the client for photos, and then we try to schedule a time as soon as possible to come back out and fix the issue.
Going into revenue and the money side of things, how much revenue have you done in total since you started 2 years ago?
Yeah, so I think it's almost $300,000 or so from those last 2 years.
And what are you expected to do this fiscal year?
Almost 250,000.
Okay, so huge jump.
Yes.
And besides revenue, what metrics are you tracking to measure your success and make sure that growth is continuing?
I would say like churn rate, like a low churn rate is something that I'm trying to prioritize. Now, I try to categorize that as what type of customer it is because you're always going to get people who are moving out of the area, just want to move out clean, or somebody who can only afford a one-time clean and they tell you that off the bat. But for me, it's about maintaining our recurring clients and making them happy.
Awesome. Approach to financial management and planning. Is it a weekly thing, a daily touch base? Is it monthly? How are you focusing on that?
I would say it's become more of a not a daily thing. It's become more of a weekly thing, but sometimes it is daily, depending on, you know, any issues that come up, whether that be issues with us having to invest more money into marketing or trying to reevaluate our marketing in order to grow at like a rapid rate. But for the most part, it's more of like a weekly thing.
Strategies. Do you have any good strategies for managing and minimizing risk?
Yeah, it's all about who you hire. It's all about who you hire. Man, it's interesting because I think that the people who work for your business, I mean, I'll tell you this. This is not, the cleaning business is not about cleaning. It's about hiring and retention of your workers, your good, having a consistently good labor supply. So I would say, like, if you dial in and you find some really decent cleaners, you're going to be able to take on cleans whenever. You're going to be able to scale, and you have confidence that the job is going to be done well. I would say that's a good one. But yeah, just constantly monitoring it. I really like the fact that on Booking Koala, like, we can upload photos, because that's part of our SOP, is that we need photos of the jobs that are done correctly, so that, you know, if a client complains, we're able to have proof of the job and protect them if we need to. So it really depends. I would say that's the biggest thing. Another one is, like, if I had to tell, like, my old self, like, a piece of advice with risk, like, you know, business is risky in general, but I think that if you stay small enough longer and you don't delegate everything out until you understand exactly what you're delegating, I think that that's a really good way of minimizing risk. Another one is, obviously, like, we've never had this issue, but insurance is super popular. When I hear clean business owners who aren't insured and they don't have a policy, like, that is a disaster waiting to happen. You do not know, like, when I started out, when I was cleaning, I broke so many things unintentionally, but it could be, you know, a microwave plate, you know, a small piece of tile. It just happens, especially when you're in older homes, and you don't want to be paying out of pocket for that. So having a really good insurance policy, at least your state minimum, is super important.
Definitely. Got to be insured, got to make sure that you're meeting the state regulations, you're in good standing, you don't want to be penalized for anything. Outlook for the next 5 to 10 years, where do you see the business? And then,
Man, that's a difficult one, because I have a couple of paths that I'd like to take. I'd like to scale it as much as I can in my market. So it's um, as much as possible in our market, depending, you know, I have to run the numbers, but I'd like to scale it. And I'd either want to franchise it or just sell it. I'm not sure, but I'd like to learn as much as I possibly can. And when I say sell it, it's not like, oh, I'm going to give up. Like, I would look at that as success. Like, I started something, I scaled it, and I sell it, make a profit, and maybe start another business.
absolutely. Going into the tech side of things and the software, how big a role does tech play in your daily business ops?
It's super big, super big. We use several different softwares. Obviously, Booking Koala for our booking software, and then, you know, we run our payments through it, but attached to it is Square. Um, and then we have Twilio for our reminder messages, which is super important. And then I also have um, Go High Level, which can do a lot of things. That's our CRM software, and I find that that is honestly a game changer. Like, if I had if I had to pick nothing but, you know, the basics, it would be Booking Koala and then a CRM, or even Booking Koala CRM. But it's just really important to gather all your customer data and keep it in a place where you can, you know, leverage that for growth.
Definitely. And have you been using Booking Koala from the start 2 years ago, or were you using something else and then you switched over?
So when we started, we were using nothing but our payment processor, and then we experimented with other, like, competitors booking softwares, and then eventually back, I think it was not last May of 2 years ago, 2 years ago, May of 2024. I ended up going with Booking Koala, and ever since we've used it.
So what drew you into using us and switching over to us?
So I would say that it was probably like the fact that the cleaners had their own app, or basically their provider portal. Other softwares, as far as I know, didn't have that functionality, and it would have cut into, like, it would have created a lot more admin tasks that had to be done. Whereas, like, for us, they know their schedule, they know what they expect, they can see all the job details, they understand what they're getting paid. But that was like a game changer. Like, I wouldn't want to manage a cleaning service without a portal or a back end for the service providers.
Super important. Gives them autonomy, lets them log in and check their bookings and just do so much. So definitely see why that's important to you. What's one feature that you couldn't live without in Booking Koala?
Ooh, that's a good one. So I would say, as a business owner, it would be unwise to go into business without a platform that allows you to take cards on hold. So for us, like, holding a card on file is crucial in, not getting stolen from, because, it just happens. We've experienced theft of service in our business in the beginning, and it happens. But I think having that card on file, it's security that, like, okay, we know that the cash is going to continue to flow. We know that we have funds to pay our overhead and to pay our staff. So that's a super crucial one. I think also, like, having the photos, the area to upload job media, it makes it a lot easier for us when we have complaints or we need, like, transparency that the job is done correctly, especially now that we're operating remotely. Like, we don't have somebody checking on our cleaners. So that's super helpful, as well as the clock in, clock out, because we always know what's going on. It makes it super transparent and easy for us to manage the business that way.
And the card hold feature, to expand for somebody who's just looking to start the business, it's not necessarily that the system is holding the credit card information in the software. It's right. That whatever specified amount before the booking is taking place, whether it's 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours beforehand, the system is actually going to take the amount for the booking and hold it, not fully charge it, but hold it so that you're getting paid, right? You're not getting screwed over and you're not chasing anybody. And then if it fails, you get a notification saying, hey, the payment didn't go through. You could go reach out to the customer, ask them to change their card or what have you, right? Flip side to that question. What's one feature we don't have that you would like to see?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I would say the ability to, like, if we wanted to completely eliminate Go High Level, I would say, and this is just like a wish list, this is crazy, maybe pie in the sky, but I would say a dialer would be super interesting, like an in app or in website, in software dialer, in order to, like, contact the client right there if we're trying to go all in one. And I would say also an ability to create a workflow, like marketing campaign. So where it's like similar to Go High Level, where you can text, email, and then follow up a day later, text, email, follow up a day later, or whatever specified time. Or even like an ads manager would be cool to have it immediately connected to Booking Koala. But that's just like a wish list item. I don't know if that's even possible.
Something that we could look at, right? Always add it to the feature request page and we can have other customers vote on it and see where we could put it in if we can. Final question here. What advice are you giving your 10-year-old self if you could go back in time and talk to her?
I don't know, man. That's difficult. I would say I feel like a really good one with business is just like not to be afraid. I think a lot of people end up not starting businesses and not starting careers and not even doing anything in life because they're too afraid of what could happen. I think like taking action and doing it is better than nothing. So I'd say like another thing is everything is figure outable. Everything is, you can always figure out the solution to a problem. Like the solutions to problems exist, you just don't know them yet. I would say that's super important when it comes to running a business.
I like that. Kirsten, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your story with everyone and just being an open book and letting us into your life and your world of business. And we appreciate everything that you shared.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And everybody watching, till next time, this was another episode of the Qualified Podcast.